Welcome back to the Watercolor Journey Painting Challenge. Hi, I'm Chris V, your host, and we're going to stick with the low pressure painting project theme because who doesn't need to get rid of more stress? There's just never enough ways that you can have in your back pocket to deal with stress when it comes. So this week, we're going to go right into a new project, and this one focuses on seascapes and sea creatures because the ocean is so flowy and sea creatures, watching them is like a ballet underwater, and it's just so relaxing. So I'll be painting a jellyfish in the ocean this week. Let's get started. I'm going to start with a quick sketch of the placement of this jellyfish because the size of the image is slightly different than the size of my paper or even the shape of my paper. So I'm going to make it slightly smaller than what it shows. And I'm going to keep it in the same area. It's about a quarter of the way from the top of the page, but I think this is probably pretty good right here. I don't have to make it completely exact. I could even change the position of it. Making these images your own is such a wonderful way to make your work unique. It has a little bit of a clear area up here, and then this is more opaque here. And then it has these tendrils that just flow down. Again, I don't have to make them exact. I can just show how they are shaped and show them going in different directions. This one's going behind the other one. That's nice. I like that a lot. And then there are some smaller ones. I have a white paint pen. This is acrylic paint, or gouache rather. And I'm going to use that at the end. I'm going to go ahead and rough out where the bubbles are because I'm going to leave most of this unpainted. It's kind of a nice gush and looks like it's going behind in smaller bubbles. Some of the big ones I can avoid, but again, I'll be using my paint pen for some of these as well. And also to show different densities of white. And then from here, I can just draw individual bubbles that are big and then make smaller ones with my paint pen. And they stop right about here. There's more of them over here. And maybe put another one there. That's great. So let's go ahead and get started with the painting. Let me get my brush good and wet because I'm going to be filling the back with blue. Now I'm going to be using a combination of wet on wet and wet on dry because my paper dries so fast because I'm in a very dry place. I'm going to be using this deep blue, a combination of deep blue and shallow blue, and I want to start with the shallow blue, with the lighter color first. That's going to be this one. This is my Viviva Colors original pan set. So these colors are different from the ones I used last week. This is a really nice color here, and I'm just going to use a lot of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get it on my brush and start getting it going. So this is just going to be a game of filling up this space. Okay, that's enough blue filled in that I can work on some of these other details. And I love how this blue came out. I don't even think I'm going to use the deep blue. I think this is just gorgeous and it has enough different color tones in it that I don't have to feel like I need more. I'm going to go ahead and start with my jellyfish color. And now it's kind of a fuchsia pink in this image, but I am going to use my more of my brand colors, which is like orange and rust. So I'm going to use this rust here. This jellyfish is a little bit see-through. So maybe first what I'm going to do is put a little bit of blue through, like the lightest blue that I could muster, like this. Just a hint of blue. This part doesn't really show the blue too much at all, but it does go all the way to the top. And it shows through these, I don't know what you call these tendrils, but it shows through some of these. Oh, I forgot to paint some of the blue in between these. There's not much, but there is some, so that's a good point to come back to. And now I'm just going to paint through some of them because it's not everywhere. It is definitely at the bottom. I don't think I've ever seen a jellyfish that wasn't beautiful, and this one is no exception. They are just so beautiful. The colors and the shapes and the way they dance, it is just stunning. I actually painted another jellyfish in my Skillshare class. It's called Watercolor Treasures of the Sea. And some of you have been in that class. I've seen you in there, but others might not know it's there. It's an entire class based on about half a dozen projects. One is a full seascape of the ocean, and the others are some various sea creatures. And one of them is a jellyfish that I just love. That one was so much fun to paint, and I still remember it to this day. So, yeah, it was pretty memorable. I may not even go to orange. I might just stick with the rust. I don't know if I got that dark enough. So I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to have to let that dry, but I can start in the center, which is not painted at all. So let's go ahead. I want this rust a lot darker. And I'm going to start with some concentrated dots in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with where it's really dark. This and over here. I don't know what parts I'm looking at. Maybe some of you know more about marine creatures and you can fill us in the comments. What parts of the jellyfish I'm painting here? I don't know the anatomy of one of these beauties at all, but I do know I love to look at pictures and videos of them. They are the best. That and octopuses, big surprise, right? Being as my brand name is called Octopus Connection. The real reason I'm called Octopus Connection is because I just have so many art disciplines that I love. I don't just paint. I am also a fashion designer. I sew, I crochet, I sculpt. In fact, I had a business where I was sculpting custom projects for people at one point, and I make custom jewelry. And one of you just asked me, Joni asked me about the jewelry I wear in these videos. And yes, those are all my designs. And I used to sell to private clients. So I have a website page. And so I have a lot of interests. It made me feel like an octopus I needed more arms. I needed more legs. And so that's how the whole concept came to be. These are pretty dry and I need to paint a lot of dots in those too. So I'm going to go ahead and start At some point, I thought I would use my small brush, but I'm kind of enjoying using the medium round brush for now. And I'm actually getting through these dots quite quickly with this brush, which wasn't the intention, but um, it's actually helping the project move faster. Okay, now this is dry enough. I can start up here. This almost looks like a polka dotted shower cap to me. And I know that's a silly thing to compare it to, but comparing what I see to things I know already makes it much more approachable. And I've learned over time to try to make as many associations as I can because it just helps me paint more easily. So that's something you could try if you haven't started already. So up here, they kind of blend and mix a little bit together so that there's a little bit of a background color, which is just a softer version of the color of these dots. That's pretty cool. I think I'm going to darken the outside of this now because there's kind of a line of dots around the outside. I'm just going to just paint straight out of my palette. I'm just leaving some spaces here and there. And I think at this point, I'd like to add my own spin on this by adding some tendrils, like skinny ones, in this color because I think it would add so much to this composition. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of them over here. I'm just trying to keep them really light and showing a few, just going in different directions. They're very curly at the bottom. Most of them are over here, but I do want to show some over here too. I like that a lot. And I could still add lighter ones, but that's really nice. Adds a little more definition and space to this jellyfish character. Now that this is getting a bit drier, I'm going to go ahead and add some smaller dots down here just to kind of complete this a little bit more. I like that a lot. There's not that defined a line down there, but it's okay. I like the way it's kind of completing the head. And now I can go to my bubbles. For that, I'm going to use a very, very light blue to show that there is some space between these bubbles. Some of them can be darker than others. I'm going to show some circular motions. And I don't want it to get too blue, so I'm going to leave that. And I'm going to, with my smaller brush, drop little drops of water here and there. And when they dry, they'll dry a lot lighter. We'll see what they do. I'm just going to drop some drops and just let them do some work and see how effective they are. Need to make these more round just for fun. They're not even actually in the image, but I thought it could be an interesting experiment. Okay, let's leave that. And I want to try this white pen and staying away from my drops of water, just start adding some little bubbles of my own and just do it where it's the darkest because this pen shows up better when it's on a dark surface. The darker, the better. And especially down here, because I didn't want to get too messy down here around my tendrils. I have to look up what they're actually called. I'm going to have to do a few layers of them, I think. They don't have to be very dark, just enough to suggest there's a bubble is enough. And it looks a lot more three-dimensional, a lot more believable, too. And then it kind of complements the bubbles I already have. There's a lot more bubbles up here. And I think I'm actually going to keep going with this blue because I kind of like the way this is looking now that it's dry. I don't want it very dark. I just want to show some round movement here and there, especially at the edges where they're not as concentrated. I've never done bubbles this way before, so this is a fun experiment. I hope you enjoyed the seascape themed project this week, and I hope you'll do more of these projects. They are so relaxing and so calming. If you have questions or need some encouragement, let me know in the comments below or in our private Facebook group community, which is a safe space for you to share your art and your thoughts. There's a link to join us in the description. You'll also find a link to join us in this challenge where you'll get access to all the lessons, the image downloads, the full color workbook, the community, and an online challenge hub all for free. So you don't want to miss it. You might even see your artwork featured in one of these videos later on. And on that note, here are the beautiful projects that have been posted in the community recently from our challenge members. You can click the image on the screen now to watch all the challenge lessons from the beginning. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, I would so appreciate it if you would hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos as they come out. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.